Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, your paranormal portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. Hello, my dear gatekeepers. How are you? And to anyone who's new listening to the program, if you're listening to it, you're a gatekeeper because you're the gatekeeper of your own life. You're the gatekeeper of your loved ones. You're the gatekeeper for anybody that comes in this chat and needs an extra hello or a hug or a link or an answer to a question, and that's the big thing about this show. And tonight I am so grateful to have two wonderful people that I've just met tonight. I've been listening to their podcasts and going over the various books and information that they have, and I'm absolutely blown away at their experience. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy this tonight. It's going to give you a lot of hope. It's going to give you some understanding. It's going to give you some things to think about. It's going to give you some stuff to go back over your own experiences and see, like, wow, maybe that was, something more than I thought at the moment. And I think it's just going to really shake things up in a great way and just fill you full of light and wonderment. And I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. So real quick, a little housekeeping. Mods tonight, this is a special guest tonight, so I'm going to have a lot of my attention on them. If there's any great questions, please feel free to put those in caps, all caps, so we can see them, so my mods can see them. The mods will be dropping links to the wonderful authors we have on here tonight, to their books, to their websites, and things like that. So you'll have all that information. I wanted to go over real quick before I bring them in, so we can just devote the rest of the program to them, is our TeePublic. We went ahead and we did the mugs and t-shirts and hoodies and things like that with your special gatekeeper designs on them. I do believe there's usually a sale going on. Jackie, I'm not sure. I think that 35% off is over. But again, Cyber Monday, they always have something for Cyber Monday. So if you're looking to get one of those gatekeeper mugs or something like that, this is what they look like. And then we will, without further ado, we'll get back to bring on our wonderful guests, okay? So here's a little vid just about designs. And again, keep in mind our motto, enjoy the journey. And tonight's guests are going to tell us exactly a little bit more about how to do that. And how long is this journey? I bet it's longer than you think. So here we go. Enjoy the journey. My wonderful gatekeepers, here you go. TeePublic link will probably be it is in the description. It's teepublic.com/Cisco. So again, enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey through the episode and through your life. There's so many miracles. Enjoy it. We've got the mugs with all your comments. The resurrected comments of the Gatekeeper Gallery here. You guys are something. You got some great comments out there. Laura, thank you so much. Yes, we are monetized. Thank you so much, guys. You got me there. Jackie, thank you. My great mods out there putting links already. Thank you. I adore you guys. And it does have the Holy Shirt guarantee. You know, you can't beat a Holy Shirt guarantee. So tonight, without further ado, May I please introduce to you? Let's just bring them in here. Dave and Carla, come on in and join this. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, and can you pronounce your last name for me, please? Can you do that for me, Dave?
Sure. Dave Bettenhausen.
I knew I was going to mess it up. And you are Carla
Kid.
Bogney Kid. Excellent.
Yes.
Now, through all the lives you guys have lived together, have you ever had easier names to pronounce in other lives? I'm joking. I'm joking.
Yes.
Sometimes only first names.
Sometimes only first. I imagine going back in time, that's, you just had that. So, to introduce this whole thing to the chat, I'm going to allow you guys to take the reins, because what I've discovered about you guys is you discovered each other accidentally, kind of, sort of, too. Did you not?
Correct.
Yes.
Who wants to start off?
Well, I'll start.
Okay.
I'll say that in 1998, Dave came in to purchase the practice where I was the office manager. And we immediately got along, and we were friends for, a long time. We had each other's backs, very good friends. We were both married to other people, but we were still, had a very close relationship. And it came time for the government to implement electronic medical records in the office. We work in a medical office together. And of course, we're not 29, and we were used to charts with paper and, pen, and we had some computer, but everything had to be on the computer. And it was a great big change for us, and it was really stressful. So we decided, after Dave was absolutely not himself, that we were going to do something to help us relax and zone out a little bit, and we decided to meditate. And during meditation, Dave discovered that he had a gift that he never knew he had, and that was that he could connect to the spiritual world through meditation, and just from shutting off his mind and connecting. So, but before he realized that, we started to meditate in the office with the entire office, and then the other girls decided they didn't want to do it, so it was just Dave and I. And after that third day of meditation, he came up and said to me, Carla, I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but I think I was talking to your mother during meditation. And I said, what? Now, he never met my mother because my mother had died 18 years before. And I said, well, first of all, I wasn't surprised because I've always been kind of open, but I was thinking, well, why the heck did she go to you and not me? So, but anyway, I went over to the computer. He said, she was real jovial and she was funny, and she kept showing me a shoe. And I said, a shoe? And I went over and I brought up, I Googled ballroom dancing shoes, and I said, which one? Maybe 60 pair came up, and he went over and he pointed to it, and I thought, how the heck did you get that? But he got the right one. And my mother was a ballroom dancer, and she wore those shoes for dancing and like to church or if she was dressing up. But for him to pick out the pair, that was unbelievable.
That shoe, that's crazy for, there's a lot of shoes out there, folks.
That's right, a lot.
And Paula also, which is Carla's sister, works in the office, and Paula ran back and found a picture of their mother and brought it out and said, is it this lady? And I said, yes. And she kind of reminds me of Carla from side view. And I said, this was her. And then I got real tearful a little bit. And I was like, the patients are coming in. And I'm like, okay, I got to go.
Yeah.
I got to run. I got to start taking care of people. And the girls all wanted to meditate again. They said, let's try to talk to mom. And I'm like, well, we've got 30 people coming in. And so I ran down, started taking care of people. It is important just to tell everybody, meditation was so incredibly calming because at that time I was staring at a computer and staring at patients and staring at a computer, and I hated it. Because you lost part of the connection.
So stressful, just so overwhelming. I remember when that happened in my office, when things started going over, and people that were sitting in the room says, you have to send it to me in email. I'm like, but you're sitting right here.
Correct.
Why do I
All
have
of
to
them.
do all this? I don't understand the stress of, I get it. And meditation would be. So you did this together, and then
Then we
you were
kept,
talking to her mom.
and I was talking to her mom. And then we kept continuing to meditate. And then I had this day where I had a memory. And it was from 1962. Now, I was 3 years old, so I can kind of figure out how old I am. But in 1962, I suddenly had this memory that I had never remembered before. Now, in 1962, I lived in Nebraska, and I was telling Carla and Paula about this memory where I got in the blue sedan and we drove across the country and we were going to Boston. And they both looked at me and said, Boston? At that same time, they both lived in Boston. Now, I was from Nebraska, they're from Boston. And we were driving, and I said I got to Boston, and I remembered the student housing because my dad was going to graduate school. And then I remembered running on a beach. And as I'm running on the beach, I'm telling them that I see the Ferris wheel in the background, and I see the roller coaster and little feet hanging from them in the souvenir shops. And I'm running because I'm so excited because I had never seen the ocean. I'm running on the ocean, screaming and yelling. And boom, this little girl says, be quiet, you're bothering my family. And she shoves me and pushes me down and sits on my chest. And she gives me a kiss on the forehead. Then she jumps up and she looks at me and she puts her hands on her hips and she's standing there in this little blue 2-piece bathing suit. And I'm looking at her, and Carla looked at me and said, what? And what happened, Carla?
Well, I remembered that day because my parents were always splitting up. And, the good Catholic family wouldn't get divorced. And I was the youngest of 6 girls. And that particular day, Daddy had rented 2 cabs. We didn't have a car. We weren't well off. And we went to the beach. And we went to Revere Beach. And as Dave was explaining where he was, Paul and I, my sister, knew exactly what beach it was because, it wasn't just sand and water. It had amusement park and souvenir shops. And he was explaining Revere Beach. And as we arrived that day, for whatever reason, I didn't have a bathing suit, and I normally would have inherited one being the youngest of 6 girls. Yep. So we all went across the street to a little souvenir shop, and my parents bought me my first brand new 2-piece blue ruffled bathing suit. Well, I didn't have new clothes. They really couldn't afford to buy the bathing suit that day, but we were there. They were back together. So when Dave started to explain this, it's like, how could he possibly have remembered that? How could he know that? But that was, so those are 2 circumstances that were like aha moments.
Yeah,
How
and
could
we
he
didn't meet
possibly
again
know?
for 38 years.
We didn't keep in touch or anything.
Yes.
So you met in this life, at a young, both of you, a very young age. You were, like you said, like 2 or 3, and you were probably, what, about 6 or 8, something like that. You were young.
3 and 4.
3 and 4. Okay. So you met in that lifetime. So then you don't meet again for 38 years. And now you're meditating and you're pulling up. It seems to me that when you meditated, and a lot of people in the chat will probably agree with me on this, is you open yourself up, and you start like exercising that. And the more you do it, the more fluid things get and the more they come through. Now, I'm wondering if you didn't have that connection with her mom, just because it was easier to come to you than to her. In some cases, that's the way it seems with the dead or ghosts or, a spirit, that they sometimes can. People often wonder, well, I'm her daughter. When'd you come to me? But sometimes it's harder because there's a lot of earthbound feelings there and stuff too. And I'm wondering if you thought anything about that, Dave. Did you think, why is she coming to me?
Well, I did wonder that. And through meditation, we found out a lot of things. Certainly her mother had been in many previous lives, and also, and that her mother and Carla are very connected. And as we were continuing to meditate, we ended up with another memory. And I was actually meditating at home because we were trying to meditate all the time. And I came in one morning and I said, I had the strangest memory. I said, I was standing in an alley and I looked across the alley, this dark alley, and you were standing there. Now, I knew it was you, but you looked different. You still had the same steel blue eyes, but you looked different. And so when I saw her and she was standing with this little ruffled skirt and a gold band on her head, I was watching her.
Fringe, Dave.
Fringe. Right.
Flapper fringe.
Flapper fringe.
And I saw two big lights explode, and I felt myself hit in the chest, and I was thrown back, and I realized I'd been shot, and I was laying in this alley bleeding to death. And so I'm telling Carla this, and she's like, that's very strange. That's not a memory of 1962 when you were alive. I said, I know, it's very strange. And then the next day, doing meditation again, I had another memory. And it was before this time, but at that time. And I was going to a wedding of a man named Angelo. And Angelo was getting married, and I worked for a guy that worked for Angelo, and I got invited to this wedding. I went to the wedding, and the front of the wedding was this incredible, beautiful wedding singer, and she was singing. Mm-hmm. And I had to get to know her. And at the reception, I went over to her, and I met her, and it was the same woman that was standing in the alley.
Oh, my.
And so as I met her, I tried to get to know her, but she was a little distant, but I was brave enough that I asked her to go to breakfast the next day. And she met me for breakfast at a place called Marino's. And after breakfast, we talked. We started walking along the Chicago coastline along Lake Michigan. And it was cold and snowy, and she was grabbing onto my arm as we were walking. And she told me she moved to Chicago to become a dressmaker, and that she liked to sing, and that her name was Ruby Donaldson, and that her father's name was James Donaldson, and her mother's was Anna, and she was one of 11 kids born in Bullock, Georgia. And I'm listening to all this, and again, we met at a wedding of a guy named Angelo, and I came and tried to explain this all to Carla.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided, like most people would, that I wanted to see if I could get proof. Was there any proof out there? You know, a lot of really past lives from way back you cannot corroborate, but this was, not that far back. So I got onto Ancestry.com, and I did find lots of Ruby Donaldsons. But luckily, with the information of her parents' names and the fact that she had, 10 other siblings, I could find all that. I did find the Ruby Donaldson, born in 1904, et cetera, et cetera. I found articles from Chicago newspapers from 1925, the wedding of Angelo Jenna.
Wow.
He was the head gangster before Al Capone. And he married Lucille Spinola. Lucille Spinola's brother was the banker that Dave, JJ, was working for. That's why he was invited to the wedding. And there was also a picture of their wedding cake. They were married in Ashland Auditorium in Chicago. And over 3,000 mobsters were there. They had a 10-foot tall wedding cake. I also found an article from when Dave's boss then, Henry Spinola, the brother of Lucille, where he was gunned down in a restaurant. That article was also in a Chicago newspaper, exactly 1 year later than the day that Ruby and JJ met. It was January the 10th, 1926. So I had that information that I could, tell Dave, well, you're not crazy, because these things
here it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Here it is. And,
yes.
And that just floors you when you see something like that, because I think in our minds, we're like, sure, Yeah, sure. I'm just going to do this to make sure, I'm not crazy. I'm just imagining things. And then when those facts come up and hit you, very much like the young children we hear that,
Yes.
a young 2-year, 3-year-old boy can describe the inside of a fighter plane that was used in
Yes.
World War II by, the British or the Americas or, whatever.
Correct.
And, and they go back and they find, yes, a man, my name was Robert. It was Robert Jones. And I, had died over the Pacific. Those things just keep coming. And, there was the lady who described a whole town in Scotland and her family and everything and went back and found all these things to be true. So I imagine for both of you, as you're unraveling this, you're getting those feelings. I mean, describe what that's like to imagine where it's all starting to click into place. What are you thinking?
Well, the day that was the most revealing or the most uncomfortable, whichever you want to look at it, I was meditating and I started to tell part of the next part of the story. And as I'm telling the story, I become JJ Wright. And it literally feels like I'm JJ and I'm telling Carla the story.
Wow.
But at that moment, Carla started to answer the questions before I finished them.
Oh, my.
And she had the same memory that was coming through. And we felt very uncomfortable because there were some emotional ties in there that were not present in this life. At least, we've been best friends, but we were like emotionally tied together. And then it was very soon after.
Dave, why don't you just say it? JJ and Ruby had some hot sex. That's all there was to it.
And now you're sitting in the office together getting these memories. You're like, whoa.
Needless to say,
that's so much
we
fun.
got up and went 2 different directions, and we didn't talk to each other. It was very uncomfortable.
I can imagine. That's real life. That's real life. That's when you're getting that and you start realizing that those people had that kind of relationship. And you guys, it's almost like walking in on your mom taking a shower or, your parents or something. It's a hit of reality. That's incredible. So now you pulled away uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. We were looking at this, first this reincarnation thing, and I'm a physician, and I'm like, okay, the world thinks I'm going to think I'm crazy on this, but I have this memory for some reason. I met Carla at 3, and then at 38, and now I realize I met her in 1925. And how is this reincarnation? Why are we pulled together?
Right.
We started doing the research just like you were. I read everything by Ian Stevenson. We read Jim Tucker's work. They've been doing research on reincarnation for the last, 50, 60 years. We read every religious document that we could find. We started reading everything, trying to find where things happened and why they disappeared. We found things like the first early church doctor or people that wrote the church doctrine in about 200 AD was Origen, and he was still writing that reincarnation was real, and the transmigration of the soul occurs, and that all souls are created before they come to this earth. And he was excommunicated from the church 200 years later after he was already dead because it didn't match the rest of the story.
Yeah, the narrative, right?
Yeah, it didn't match the narrative. And so as we're finding all this, we become even more and more interested. And then there was a day when I'm meditating and this woman appears, and I think it's like her mother, Carla's mother. But she calls herself Isabella.
Okay.
And she says, well, I've been with you for 6,000 years. Since your first incarnation. And then we started documenting everything because I started getting pictures of things and different things. And then we started getting more and more memories, and Isabella would help us with the memories. And pretty soon, Carla and I had found 42 lives for me and 34 for her, and that we had been in 29 of them together.
Wow. So you have been in 29 lives together. Not necessarily all of your lives you've been together.
No.
So, and I find that interesting aspect to it all. It's funny. I'm so twisted that, you say something like that and I'm picking up, wonder why they weren't in all the lives. Who chose not to go with the other one and why? You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm thinking. Like, where are our choices and our free will in this? That's also interesting to me. And I think in maybe some cases, like, you don't need me this time, you've got it. Or, that kind of thing goes on. So explain that again. Isabella said she had been with you for over 6,000 years.
Years. Correct.
Wow.
In each of my incarnations. And then Isabella started sharing lessons of why all these things were happening. One is interesting, and we had a few lives together, and then we had a life in Egypt, and Carla actually poisoned me in that life. And so, of course, we didn't come back in the next life together because the next life, when I came back, she was still in atonement and still going through a past life review, and she was actually being shown things she had done wrong. And of course, killing someone was wrong.
Yeah. In atonement, although I love that. She was going through a life review and she was still going through atonement. Like, basically accepting what you've done. Why did I do this? I could have done that better. Didn't have to make that choice. You're still working it through. Meanwhile, Dave zips in and goes, I'm going to go get another life while you're working through this, Carla. Basically, I know it sounds like we're making fun of it, but I honestly believe at this point, it really is that simple. We tend to make things so complicated, but once you peel back the layers, it's simplistically complex, I believe. Because I think the things we think are really complicated aren't, and then the others, and vice versa. And I think this is an amazing story for me, and that's why I jumped on it so quick when I first heard you two talking, that this teaches us so much. Now, I have one question. You met your spirit guide, Isabella. Let's just say one, because I believe that you more than likely have more than one. I believe they come in and out of your life as your character, your life changes, and you might need an extra boost. They all have specialties and things like this. That's what I believe at this point. But where was yours? Cisco. Oh, great. Where was yours, Carla? Did you get to meet any of your spirit guides? And was it similar in the time or no?
Well, this is how Isabella has explained it to Dave.
Okay.
From the time of our first birth, we have a main spirit guide.
Okay.
That's Isabella for Dave, and it's Elizabeth for me. And yes, she did surface just a few days into our beginning meditating.
Great.
The guides we have after that, and I'll give you a couple of examples. Often they're people that have been our family or friends, your soul group. For instance, our gatekeeper, the person that keeps negativity away from us, and souls waiting to reincarnate are not allowed to speak to us unless they're given permission. Why is that? Because they're supposed to be learning. They're not supposed to be just jumping in and having fun. And my mother's job is called the gatekeeper. She actually keeps,
which is great with your show.
Yes.
So cool. Yeah.
So then my sister Pat, who died when she was 40 in 1992, she is actually the person now that crosses over from Earth to the spiritual world when our family members die. She passes them over. So, often, and Dave's father has come to him and talked to him. Dave's grandmother has come and talked to me. They're always kind of lingering, but the main spirit guide is with you from the beginning.
How neat.
Yeah.
How neat. It's just, I say all the time, whoever has the wheel to this really knows what's going on.
Cisco, I
They thought
love
he's
that.
giving it a persona of,
Yeah.
of a person, because I think we need that, whether it's source or God or creator or whatever you want to put on that. It's
We
just
don't put a
this.
title on it either.
Right. It's just, whoever's got this wheel's got to figure it out. Just a little simple thing like, most of the mediums and psychics and people with abilities right out front that are more noticeable than small intuitions and things that we tend to think are small. They're not small. But the mediums that put their gifts out front, they don't tend to be able to do the same for themselves that they can do for others, total strangers.
Right.
And I found that so profound when it finally hit me, because I certainly can't. I can get a mom's intuition about things, but there's so much emotion involved in the choosing and the choices and the thoughts and the process of it, trying to unravel it all, that one day I was driving my car and I just said, okay, another piece snapped into place. Somebody, whoever put this together, knows what they're doing, because it makes perfect sense. Of
We like
course
to
you
call
wouldn't be
that
able to do it.
person. We like to call that person the intelligent designer.
Okay, that's great.
Yes. Because
That's great.
because we can't really personify that which is everything that is before beginning, that always
Right.
existed. That that's that concept that most people will call God. Makes sense because you can't. It was interesting when you were talking earlier, Cisco. You said something about raising your vibration.
Okay.
Which way is up?
Okay.
Which is raised?
Yeah,
What does
yeah.
that mean if there is
Yeah.
no authority that has some design? So there has to be an authority that says this is better, this is raised, this is up, and we over thousands of years we've put so much in religion, but is this not part of a sort of a religious concept that you're really given chance after chance to grow and learn? It's not one mistake and off to
Done.
hell.
Right.
You're done, because no loving parent or would say one mistake is enough and you're done.
That's it. Yeah, it
That's
never
it.
made sense to me either, but it does make sense, not to poke at religion or anything like that. We have people in here that are very religious, and some who have just, turned and found another spiritual path. I'm Native American, Christian, Buddhist, a little pagan, a little this, a little that, because the thing is you take the good, you glean the good. The core, love each other, take care of yourself, take care of other people, be kind to nature, put it back,
Yes.
all of the normal, regular things. But the religion, it seems, in some cases, there's so many rules for them to keep you, whoever wrote that, to keep you in check.
Yes.
And then there's some religions that even goes far and says you can't talk to source, you have to go through me. Whereas spiritual people, we're talking to people all day long.
Yeah.
I'm driving down the road talking to Archangel Michael going, I need you today, or my ancestors or my my loved ones that have passed, but basically we're deemed the crazy ones, but we're the ones that are most comfortable in our own skin at this point.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Isn't that funny? But I think that you've probably done that too together. We've come together over this journey at this time. Look at how much you're learning about all of the other. I wonder why this lifetime you were guided to find this out now. What do you think about that? Why now are you guys finding this out?
Well, Isabella said, because there are many people that are inspired at this time, and we can connect to people, and your purpose is to always share part of the lesson and the message. And the other one is, Isabella said, at the time that this happened, it was an incredible moment because you were open and you were concerned about Carla.
Nice.
And Carla wanted you to meditate because she was concerned about you. So literally, you both were praying for each other and not for yourself. And as you were opened, I could reach you.
Nice. That makes sense to me, and that's kind of, you put it beautifully, but that's kind of what I was meaning, that like, why did her mom come through to you. You were more open at that point in time. And it's also in timing, I believe, in the universe, the right time. We have people in the chat here just echoing your thoughts and saying this is the time that people are ready to hear this type of information. Maybe not everybody, of course, not everybody, but the ones who are seeking those pieces to the puzzle, they don't so much mind the cover of the box. They have a great imagination. They could probably deal with not having the cover to the box. It's the missing pieces that get them crazy, and they're willing to wait on the picture, but they just want to know, the piece they have, where does it go? Where does it fit? Am I forcing it in because I think it goes there? Or does it really snap in place like I think? And I think that's how everybody feels in life. And we wonder, why did I get a dad that was an abusive alcoholic? Why did, my mom get cancer at 12 and I was an orphan? Why did this happen? Why does this happen? And we don't know what to say. Yes, please do.
I'm going to give you a little explanation.
Please do.
Because there is an issue of karma. Now I got to kind of explain karma because people start to think of it as a very negative thing. Let's say it's just a way to keep track of lessons that are less good or less positive and negative. But don't think of them as bad and good. But it's a system of keeping track of the lessons. And so an example for alcoholism, it's possible that you had an alcoholic father and you become an alcoholic because you didn't break the cycle. And then, of course, your children now have an alcoholic father. And it's possible that your father will return to your children because he's in your soul group, he's close to you, because he's got to learn that he has to break the cycle. Someone has to break the cycle and make the move and not become the next alcoholic.
Beautiful. Say it again. Somebody has to break the cycle.
Yes, somebody has to break the cycle and not become the next alcoholic.
There it is.
And it's not always that black and white. Dave has had the opportunity to see part of his father's life review. And his father in this life died, just a couple of years before this whole experience happened. And his father, a couple of lifetimes back, was a slave trader. And he took men and families and he split them up and he chained them to his boat and he took them to Bermuda, where they were then sold off to the Americas. And he didn't take into consideration how he split up families or their feelings. And then the life when I was Ruby and Dave was JJ, Dave's father was his father then. And in that life, Dave's mother died giving birth to him. And his sister was abducted and murdered. So again, his father had to see what it felt like to lose his wife and his children. Now, in this life, Dave's father was a fantastic man, a teacher. Everybody loved him. He was a principal. They thought he was the best, thing on earth since sliced bread. But for the last 20 years of his life, he had Parkinson's and he was chained to his wheelchair.
That's the karma.
There's the karma. And it's not always black and white, cut and dry. But he saw what it was like and he overcame it, because you have to remember, it's not what happens in life, it's how you respond. He still had a great attitude. He tried to smile and laugh and be happy. He tried to make lemonade with his lemons. So, but somehow he needed to see what it felt like. It's all about learning compassion. In book 1, The Gift of Past Lives with Mother Isabella, God and Elizabeth,
Is it a puppy?
My cats are going nuts. Sorry.
Is it kitties? Oh, we love
kitties.
pets here. We love pets here. So if they want to take
Aw.
over, they can have it. We absolutely love animals here.
Oh,
So let them
they're
go
so
and
cute.
let them be themselves. Absolutely.
Let them be
But that's a
cats.
beautiful way of putting that. I remember the story. I can't remember names. I shouldn't even bring it up. But it's such a beautiful story of the man who wrote Amazing Grace. And apparently he worked on a slave ship and atoned himself in this lifetime, I guess, by being he cleaned the church. He made himself demoted himself basically to work as a janitor and clean the church and mop and do the dirty jobs and things like that. And he actually wrote Amazing Grace, which I thought was something else. He had seen the light, trying to make up for all that turmoil and hatred and sadness that he had caused in his lifetime. He broke away at this time. And this is my story, just said in here in the chat, that in that person's family, they broke the cycle. I don't know if it's a male or female because this is my story. I can't tell. But it doesn't matter. They broke the cycle in this lifetime for their family. And I've got other people saying the same thing. I'm in the cycle. I'm trying to break that cycle. And I think that's a wonderful way to put that, because when they leave tonight, they're thinking about that. When people listen to this later on, if we put this out in the universe, those who need to hear it will get a chance to choose to. And that might help somebody else, because that's profound. We hear it all the time, break the chain of abuse. We hear it, but we don't think about it in the terms you just put it. Do you know what I mean?
Correct. Cisco, the other thing that is unique, since I know 42 lives, and in our first book, The Gift of Past Lives with Mother Isabella, God, and Elizabeth, we actually, at the end of, we tell 20 parts of 20 stories. And while we're telling them at the end, we say we find out what we did wrong and what we had to change and what we had to do differently in the next life. And we also got to look at patterns, and we found that I've been white multiple times, I've been black multiple times, I've been Hispanic, I have been Christian, Jewish, Muslim, I have been in wars. I've been in wars as Scottish against England, and then in the next war, English against Scottish, because you actually end up learning by living on the opposite side of the same issue.
Yes.
Because if you don't understand the opposite side, you'll never gain the compassion that you need. Because the compassion that you need is to choose to make each and every choice out of love. And Isabella gave us the 5 simple rules, which is sort of the basic thing to remember.
Okay.
And that is, live without conceit, jealousy, selfishness, and unforgiveness, and make every choice out of love. If you do that, you don't create additional karma.
Wow. Beautifully said. Now, also, something that I've been told by a lot of mediums, and like I said, that I'm always wanting to know what the dead are dying to tell us. Most of the time it's love. I'm fine. I'm around you. I see you. Correct. Forgive yourself. Let it go. Live. Stop. Grieving and being down in the dumps. Live your life. Get up there. Get happy. You hear a lot of that, but I also get a lot from them as far as, please forgive yourself. Don't walk through life, pounding yourself over the head for something you did that you cannot change now. Did you ever hear anything about that? About, that's one of the hardest things I think it is to forgive. Forgiving others might not sound easy, but it's a little easier than forgiving yourself for things that you've done. Have you guys heard anything about that?
Well, that Isabella would say that not forgiving yourself falls under ego, which is conceit. Okay.
Yes.
If you can, and if you don't forgive yourself, then how can you know how to forgive somebody else?
That's a good point. And it's like not forgetting. You don't want to forget that something. That somebody did something, because you're learning from it. So are you guys under the, broad brush spectrum, thinking that basically we are here, like, not so much as a school, but it kind of is. We're learning, but we're learning from each other, learning how to react to things, to counteract to things, and how to be better. How would you put that? What is this journey about, our life?
All right. So consider this, Cisco. Whenever the soul consciousness is placed the first time, thousands of years ago,
Okay.
we lived in a world that was harsh, where no one knew where their next meal was, where we were in competition with all the other animals, and we were given that fight or flight thing. And because if we didn't, as a race or as a humanity, we wouldn't survive. So we had to be made such that we would actually have some ego, conceit, will to survive. Because without the will to survive, our kind would disappear. However, our purpose in life is get back to where we started, which was complete love, without needs, without wants. However, that means we have to evolve over time. We have to change. We have to grow. We have to become something different. Now I'm going to throw a semi-religious concept in here, which is kind of interesting. When I heard this from Isabella, what had to happen as we evolved is there became a point where humankind could now make a promise. And humankind is the only animal that can communicate a promise. All other animals communicate. Dolphins send, come this way, warning here, this is it. Bees communicate by spinning one direction or the other, and they tell people where food, they tell each other, bees, where food is. Humans had a moment in history where they could evolved enough that they could make a promise to sacrifice something today for others for tomorrow. That moment is when our soul could enter. We could actually sacrifice something for others instead of only for ourselves. And historically, it's very interesting that occurs biblically 6,000 years ago. When God makes a covenant, he says, if you promise to be my people, I will be your God.
Right.
That occurs over and over and over in the Old Testament. God says, make a promise that you will be something today that you were not, that you don't seem to be, that's above who you are. And if you are, you can return to the promised land. That's a moment that occurs in the Old Testament. That's a comment that occurs in the Vedas in India. It is, if you can overcome who you are, you will rise above, and you will in your next life you will be better. In your next life you will be better, or if you're Buddhist, you will become enlightened, and then you'll become one with the universe, or one with the Brahmin if you're from India and Hindu, or you become one with God when you return to heaven.
Amazing.
Somewhere there's a lesson there. And the lesson is, when you sacrifice your conceit, your jealousy, your unforgiveness, and make your selfishness, and you make your choices out of love, you grow to be someone else. And at that point, you have given up immediate gratification for something better.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And that really is, if you think about it, as you were speaking, I was thinking about, how many times, I'm a vet. So, how many times in war have, heroes sacrificed themselves for the greater good, for the more people, so his brothers or sisters could get out. How many times, animals do it. If you want to hear, I don't know why this is popping in my head, but it's so clear it must be needed to be said right now, so I'm just going to say it. I used to do construction, and we used to have to clear to put an in-ground pool. So we'd have to, bush hog a lot of times. Well, if you're ever been on a bush hogger or, a large riding lawnmower, it's the same thing. You're going through thicket and you're just watching to see if you can get through. You're not going to hit any large logs. Your concern is you don't want to get flipped. You don't want to break the machine. You don't want to get stuck. You're not thinking about where you're driving and what you're doing. Well, as a Native American, we're also, first thing we're supposed to think of is nature. Are we destroying too much? What are we doing? Are we, we can't take too much. So at the same time, I'm thinking we're only going to cut what we need to cut and make sure everything is okay. So I'm watching the person doing it. And all of a sudden from the thicket, you see this female cardinal come out. Now, cardinals are they build their nests in thickets in the brush. They're low ground dwellers. She comes out and she's like in front of the machine, and basically it's a shut it down, stop. We stop and we're watching, and she's like limping, like she's got a broken wing, away from the nest, and trying to lure this big. Just loud monster, as far as she's concerned, away from her children.
Oh.
And at that moment, I realized what I was seeing. Mm-hmm. And I was just overwhelmed with emotion, and think, she's trying to show, in nature, this is what she would do if a fox came or something else. She's sacrificing herself away from her children so that they can go on and live. And how many people do we know like that? I've got tears in my eyes thinking about it. How many people did we know like that? My mother was like that. She'd have done the same, and we all know people like this. But until we get to that point, like you're saying, 6,000 years ago, we did this and we came through, and here we are. We're still killing each other. There's wars. There's still greed, and
here's the greatest thing. And when somebody told me this, and I started to try to figure this out, I realized it's actually true. We are actually in the least violent, least wartime ever in human history.
Really?
We are actually moving in the right direction.
Awesome. So good to hear.
The other thing, Cisco, from your American Indian heritage, taking care of the environment is important for multiple reasons. Mm-hmm. Not only do we need to take care of this earth for our children and the children to come, with reincarnation, you need to take care of it for you.
For you.
Or it will be gone.
Absolutely true. I have a friend. His name is Daniel Brinkley. He was struck by lightning 3 times, died all 3 times, had an NDE each time. The first 2 times, he'll be very honest with you, he was a Marine, multiple tours in Vietnam. And he said, in his words, exactly, he said, I was an asshole. And it took twice. And I was good for a little while, and then bam. I just fell right back into it again. Got hit again, and the 3rd time, that was it. And he was shown, what broke him? He was on his way. He was doing cocaine. He was partying. That was his thing. He was selfish and everything else. And he was on his way to a party, and he hit a dog. And he said, I could remember making the choice. I could stop, or I could continue going. And he kept going. Oh. When he went through what the dog went through, when he was going through, I believe you called it earlier, atonement and life review, that's the thing that broke him. The dog died alone and in pain and in suffering. It didn't have to go through. Not the wars, not the other, this is what did it. It got in. And now he goes through life, does wonderful things for everybody, very selfless, and he hugs everybody. And the guy at a party said to him, man, you're a real hugger. He goes, I don't understand why you're going around hugging everybody. He goes, oh, you're silly, man. I'm not hugging everybody. I'm hugging me because I'm going to need them when I get over there. Yeah. That's the most beautiful statement. We're hugging ourselves. If we're being kind, to someone, the cashier, the guy at the light that's driving, beat me to the light or whatever. Be kind, and you said, make your choices out of love.
Mm-hmm. And remember that karma is not punishment. It's a second chance. Because look, it took your friend 3 times and he got it, but he got everything with that.
So it's both mercy and justice.
Yes.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Donnie Chow. My chat's going a little crazy. It's the first time I've ever been monetized, and they're throwing super chats at me. So if I'm not going to interrupt them to say thank you, but thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate it. And your kindness more than anything. Thank you for being the greatest chat ever. I'm sorry for that interruption, but I felt like I had to say thank you to them. But this is absolutely phenomenal to me. Now, when you were in other lifetimes, I'm sure you had lifetimes where you weren't very kind to each other. Did it seem like now, as the lifetimes together got along, you were kinder, or was it just sporadic through? There was no set pattern, it seems.
Well, from what we understand, one of the reasons that we have had 29 lives together is that we have always been good to each other. Okay. All except for that one little time I poisoned him, but oh well.
1 out of 29, you're not doing so bad.
Not so bad.
No, and here's those little synchronicities. The funny thing
That's so funny.
Our son in that life is the one that put me up to poisoning him. And then he turned around and poisoned me. And in this life, that guy was my very first serious boyfriend.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was poison, all right. But luckily, I got away from him.
Donnie Chow has an interesting question here. What if there were some of us who actually reincarnate backwards in time and history? Can that work that way?
All right. So, Donnie,
good question.
Tell you, it's a great question. I'm going to tell you no for a couple reasons. First, Isabella says no. The other answer is, as we have experienced it, the 42 lives were in order from 6,000 years ago through we have a life from 3700 BC, and it was interesting because we found out we were from Thrace, and I never knew Thrace existed until I Googled it, and Thrace existed, and it was a place where at the corner of Greece, Turkey, and Bulgaria. I didn't even know those three touched each other, but it was. Mm-hmm. There were Thracian warriors at the time and those kind of things. So we found that. But also I try to read everything I can that might even come close to relating to this. We live in a world of cause and effect.
Okay.
They talk about if you could travel back, you could change the past, which would change the future, and that would have an issue. Mm-hmm. The other thing they do is, as they've been studying in quantum physics, if they run an experiment forward and try to run the experiment backwards, you cannot reach the same starting point. Mm. So you can actually not return to a past time that has already occurred because you can't reach the same starting point by going backwards. So those are two interesting points. But if you're talking about a system that is somewhat related to karmic growth, then you have to have change that occurs as time evolves. And then there are those people who say, well, time on the other side is different. Yes. Mm-hmm. But time here is not. Mm-hmm. Time here is literally linear, and it goes under cause and effect. Otherwise, there's no such thing as a lesson, because a lesson is part of cause and effect. There's no experience that matters. You wouldn't come here just for an experience if you didn't believe in time. Mm-hmm. Time has to happen for something to change or to explain or to happen.
Mm-hmm. Grey Wolf says, very well explained. Mm-hmm. Thank you for answering that. Thank you for asking that, Donnie. Donnie asks great questions. They all do. My question, too, is each lifetime you had together, of course we can assume you were different people to each other. You were probably married at one time, boyfriend, girlfriend, probably brother, sister, maybe, yes. All of those kind of things. In those lifetimes that you have found out about, what was the one, other than the time you poisoned him, which I'm sure you learned a lot from, because was that the one where you were sitting back in atoning and going over everything, and he went in and because you just went back through again, right?
Yes.
So In all those lifetimes, which one do you think that you each learned the best lesson? Was it from the other? Are you each teaching each other lessons? And what I mean by this question is, it was explained to me again that even to the point of, say, a murderer comes through and kills somebody in their soul group. And again, we'll talk about the soul groups. But then later on, they might switch. It might not be that exact, but each one will go through that experience of some kind to know what they did, to know what they caused from both sides of it. Do you find that that's what's happening with you guys or with other people too?
We certainly have people that we have found in all of these lives that are in our soul group, if you want to say, where we've been teaching each other lessons or been on the opposite side of the same problem, so that we would learn compassion, that we're not really different. In all reality, I am you and you are me, and that we both live the other opposite sides. So if you're talking about lessons, if you're talking about Carla and I, we appear to be, again, when we talk about soul groups, we realize there are family mates and karmic mates. And your family mates are all here to help you. And then you have your karmic mates, which are here to basically test you.
Okay.
And the goal would be that everyone become a family mate and only help you.
Oh, that's nice.
Can I
like
give an
that.
example of
Absolutely.
this? Well, my oldest sister in this life was actually the Queen of Sheba, and I was her maid.
Okay.
And when I was Ruby in 1925,
Okay.
the woman who I lived in her boarding house that actually had a sweatshop where I did sewing and also sent me off to become a flapper at a very young age and to entertain the mobsters was also my sister in this life. She has a lot of karma with me, and she doesn't seem to change. She seems to have the same character over and over and over and over.
Isn't that
And
funny?
well, it's really not, it's not funny, but Isabella said if something is very toxic to you, you need to steer clear because I've really tried in this life with her, but she's just so toxic. And I'm hoping I'm done in this life and I don't have to put up with her again. But those things happen. And our next door neighbor, who recently moved, he has been in 21 of our lives karmically. In fact,
Wow.
he's the one that actually killed JJ in the last life.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you before we switch off of this with your sister. For those of us who feel like we're going through again and again and again, and I've got stories on this. I had a very good friend who said, "I'm not going through another lifetime with my husband. We keep trying, and it's always like you just said. He's extremely toxic. I don't know how to break that. Now, how do you break that? How do you do it?"
Well, I can tell you, the gangster that Ruby worked for in 1925, Angelo Jenna, he was my first husband in this life. And I broke it. He was very abusive, very controlling, just like he was in that life. And it took me 4 years to get up the courage, but I finally just said, "You're not going to own me. I don't care what you do. I'm out of here." That's how you break it.
There you go. There you go. And just finish it here, and then
Yes.
maybe you won't have to go through again.
Yes.
The same way, with suffering the same stuff. And,
Absolutely.
like Jackie just said here, if they're toxic, just go in love and light and be done.
Yes.
I often wonder about people who do that and then keep pulling those people back in one or another. And I was just saying it 2 weeks ago in here, like if you get a phone call and you see a person, is calling you, you have a choice whether to answer that or not, to accept that energy into your day, into your moment, into your whatever. You just keep pushing it away, pushing it away. You don't go and stir it up. There are people who like to live in chaos, people who like to live in that toxic, chaotic, no matter what. They're not looking for a solution. They just want you to hear about what's going on, and it's still going on, and next week it's still going on, and we're not finding any solutions. And I often wonder if and I don't want to say newer souls. I don't want to give that kind of expectation on that, but maybe souls who haven't learned as much or not paying attention, they just seem to come through and stumble in, extremely greedy, very materialistic, and and I'm not talking about mental illness here, because there are mental illnesses that make you that way too. I'm talking about somebody that has their capacity to be different, chooses not to.
Yes.
I'm wondering what's going on with them. Are they just continuing to come through and just repeating that like a rolling stone of toxicity?
Yeah, it's interesting, Cisco, because the research out there on reincarnation, when they find someone's past life, they really figure out that there is some part of that personality that continues to follow them. And so they don't change dramatically sometimes from life to life. Their circumstance may change because they need a different test.
Okay.
But they don't change because sometimes the path is a long one. And sometimes those people are still there to teach you. Even if that they're toxic and you need to avoid them, or that you need to break the cycle, or that you can't retaliate, because retaliation just leads to another karma.
There it is. There's another good point. Retaliation is just going to lead to more karma. So you have to take care of you. I don't believe that's ego. I don't believe that's selfishness. But, if you don't take care of the lifetime, if you don't take not just care, but responsibility for this lifetime.
Oh, good word.
Yes, because Cisco, I want people to think about this too. If you don't take care of yourself, it really is a very selfish act. Because that means you require someone else to care for you.
Okay. Makes sense, yeah.
And that means, so the person who's not healthy is really going to use up the resource. They're going to use up healthcare. If they were healthier, they wouldn't use up healthcare, and healthcare wouldn't be as expensive. They're being selfish. They say, I don't have to take care of myself because the system will take care of me. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have to try to overcome. That doesn't mean you don't have a struggle. I tell the listeners, I was overweight forever until I meditated, until I realized that I had to be my best self. Now, meditation, there's some healthy things about it. It lowers blood sugar. It lowers blood pressure. It actually lowers cortisol, which is the hormone that makes you hold on to weight. And when I started to meditate, I made a little goal. I said, I think I got to lose 2 pounds a month, 2 pounds a week. The first year that I meditated, after 52 weeks, I lost 104 pounds.
Wow.
Because there's power in being connected to yourself, taking care of yourself and doing the right thing and making the right next step and making choices to love yourself and love your neighbor. Those things have to happen in both ways.
And these days it's very difficult to do that. But I also find that simple things. Now, believe me, on any given Monday, I could be it seemed like I have rabies going through the house because I'm just, I'm just getting caught up and doing all this stuff. And, but if you're thinking about it and you could be, in the moment, and if we could just all pick a moment, whether we're driving to work or something like that, instead of getting caught up and trying to multitask and listen to the radio and you're watching all the zooming going by with the cars and you're worried about being late. Breathe in, breathe out, and try to think, the next thing that tries to set me off, I'm just going to breathe through it and smile, instead of, yelling at the car that just cut me off or whatever. I'm like, have a blessed day.
Yes.
you know. And
Heaven bless them.
and I might
Maybe they're
say
on
it
the
through,
way to the hospital.
could be, but I'm saying it through gritted teeth. But I mean it each time I say it. I'm really,
Yeah.
because I don't know what they're going through. You know, I saw a post not too long ago on one of the social things. It said something like, you know, anybody that you come in contact with could be trying to. They're hanging onto their day by their teeth. They could be at, you know, one
That's
tick
right.
away from being broken. You
That's
know,
right.
you can either help that person through the next minute, or you can be the one that pushes them over the edge. Which do you want to be? And you never
Remember,
know who it is.
if you push them over the edge, you might have just created karma. And if
Karma.
you help them with a loving choice, you may have just erased some of yours.
Isn't that awesome? And it's little things, isn't it, Dave and Carla? It's little things. Do you know how good you feel that moment? Everybody's had this moment. You're walking into a 7-Eleven. If you're here in New Jersey, you're walking in a Wawa where, you know, they hold the door open for you and then run you down in the parking lot. That's Wawa. But it's that moment where you held that door open and somebody said thank you.
Yes.
Total stranger, and you just get that little feeling, and they got that, probably that little feeling too. You'll never see them again, but it's just two ships in the night, just really quick. That little, and it's just, my gosh, if you could have that all day long. It's hard to do.
It's the trickle down effect. Isabella
Yeah.
says if we would all just do that little bit, it would start to trickle down. Smile at somebody, help somebody. You know, it's not really difficult to do. Just make it the norm.
If we could do that, those little things. And I think that's one good thing about the holidays, whatever you want to say, you know, I say Merry Christmas all the time. It makes me smile. Even when I was working retail and they told you couldn't say Merry Christmas, I said Merry Christmas. I would sing Merry Christmas. They couldn't tell me about singing. But, you know, it just made me feel better, you know. And, you know, my UK friends and everybody is a happy Christmas. It's just the way. And my mom used to tell me we're never, you know, boy, we're talking about somebody who I know darn well has gone through cycles and cycles and cycles of probably, you know, I wish she was here so I could tell her these things. You know, I don't know whether she's going to have to go around with some bad people again or not. But my mom was wonderful at smiling through the pain, at, you know, making, you know, the lights, we were too short on money for the lights and it was going to be 24 hours. They got cut off. We did shadow puppet theater. You know, we always
Beautiful.
did, you know, the thing. We shared cookies and told ghost stories with flashlights. We built a fort in the, you know, whatever. We knew we were poor, but we didn't care, you know. And, you know, just the way she was, and she would always teach me to do those little things that just made it better. She said, you can go through life and cry, or you can, you know, you can smile and you can laugh, and it just makes you feel better. We say that all the time on the show. You said, well, raise your vibration, which way is up, or, you know, raise your frequency. You can feel the difference. You can feel the difference when you're sad and depressed and, you know, scared or in fear. And when you're happy and singing and dancing, there's a definite difference there. And it might not be, you might not be able to find that thing that gives you that constant feeling like when you opened that door for that stranger and that kindness was spent. But you know darn well it felt better than when you flicked off the guy who almost cut you off in the parking lot 5 minutes later.
Correct.
And I wonder how our, you know, it's no wonder we're a mess constantly going back and forth like that.
It's
Do you know
all
what
about
I mean?
the
We're
intention.
zigzagging. Yeah.
About the
All
intention.
about the intention. I mean,
Intent.
if you can, yeah, if your intention is good and you slip up a little bit, well, then you get right back on the good intention wagon.
And helping others. And that's, like I said, that's what I was starting to say before I got off my track there, is about the holidays. And she would always say, well, it's the feeling that goes around. Everybody's a little lighter on their feet. Yes, there's been more material, you know, stuff coming in and everything else, but we'd always look back seek that Walton's Mountain feeling, you know, at Christmas time, where you just went and did something for somebody, or that one special thing that you never thought the family could afford to get, and everybody got together and got it for you because they wanted to do that special thing for you. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it was that feeling. And I can remember people, you know, when my sons were little, you know, like, do you believe in Santa Claus? I'm like, you bet I do. You bet I do. Because it's within us. It's the feeling. It's the miracle of it. There were times where we were so poor and somehow we wound up on an angel tree and my kids got presents when it was like the hardest Christmas we've ever had. And they didn't know who they came from. And I was allowed to let them get that. That's, to me, that's Santa Claus. That's Christmas miracle. That's, and when I could do it for somebody else, I did it for somebody else. I paid it forward.
There you go.
Absolutely.
And that's what we need to do if we all did that, And it shouldn't just be at Christmas time or at Hanukkah or, at birthdays and thinking about it. If we did those little things, I think it would be a great, a great, beautiful world. Or take care of nature, I had a guy make fun of me the other night and says, you feed the raccoons? Well, they come around because you feed them. And I said, well, wait a minute. What came first, the raccoon or the food? Because they showed up first. They were hungry. I fed them. Yeah. And they make me smile.
Yes.
And you know what I mean? And what we've done to nature, pushing them, and they're less and less and less and less, and they're trying to find new ways to survive. And we're going to get angry at them because they learned how to open the gate and come in. That's pretty smart to me. That deserves a sandwich. That deserves a sandwich.
And Cisco, here's the same thing. We have slowly pushed nature out of the way. And made no room for it, and yet we need nature to survive. Is it going to be surprising that we someday try to push ourselves out of the way? As the population grows and continues, and the planet supposedly really only holds 9 or 10 billion people, and we already have 7 billion. How do we feed if we don't start to make room for nature to continue to feed us?
Yeah. And I just, like I said, I feel bad for, the animals that are trying to find their way, coming into these developments. Well, not too long ago, it was, that's where they hunted.
Yes.
And then, so I mean that's horrible, but we need to remember them too. I think during the lockdown, I think the only thing that made me smile, other than people finding themselves and finding out who they really were, and finding out who their kids and their family, and they're all spending time together and readjusting and reevaluating their life, and they dug deep inside and found their craftiness, or they found out they could homeschool, or they could do this or job from home, or whatever it was. They found themselves. They branched out. It was wonderful, and I think that goes through history. Hard times create strong people and doing things they never thought that they would do. It just shifts everything, and I think we just went through that. But one of the things that made me the happiest was that so many people, well, if I get to sit home, I'm going to feed the birds, and I'm like, yay!
Yes.
Finally.
Well, I'm going to walk my dog if I'm home.
Yeah. In my neighborhood, I saw the same dog 26 times. That was almost like, what is this? Why were the dog was tired. It walks so much,
Cisco, I have to tell you a little past life story and lesson.
Please do.
Just a little one.
Please do.
In the first life that Carla and I have together, she is killed, and the man's name was COVID.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Now, we wrote that story
in 2017.
Right.
Oh, wow. Oh,
okay. Okay. And then COVID is a guy who happened to be our neighbor. His name is David now, but he was COVID in his first life. Also, David now. However, COVID killed Carla, and now COVID is back, and COVID changed our lives back then forever. And now we have COVID again, which is changing our lives maybe forever.
Wow. And that life lesson there too. Wow. Well, see, that's it. I think you're probably going to see a lot of that. I mean, I'm going to wonder how many lives you guys have really had, and how much you can really know about that, how much you're allowed to know about that. And what I mean by that is, one of the things that changed, and I spoke a little to Dave before you got here, Carla, on this one. That's why I had to get you guys on, because I was going through a time as a mom of adult children. And, who hasn't, whether you're a teenager or whatever, when it's your child and, especially when you're just so close, there were things that they were going through that were extremely traumatic, life-changing, life-altering, possibly even death, and you see someone you love like that going through. Well, I went to a meeting. I was doing a show, and after that, usually everybody gets together, they start talking, and one of my friends came up to me, and she's a fantastic medium. And she says, hang on. She goes, honey, I got a message for you. Come over in the corner. So I went over there and I sat down, and I hadn't gone to anybody and asked them anything about this. I was trying to go this day to let some of the weight of it off of me, because at the time I couldn't do anything to change it. You're racking your brain, but you can't. There's nothing you can do. You can't, unless you change somebody up, they have to make their own choices. Mm-hmm. And it was my mother who came through and basically told me, take off the hat. I'm like, take off what hat? What are you talking? I'm not even wearing a hat. And she says, no, she's saying take off the hat. You're forgetting. She used to tell you all the time how many different hats she had to wear to be the dad, the mom, the nurse, the this, all the different hats. She'd take off the hat. And I'm like, okay, what do you mean by that? She said, it's their journey.
Mm-hmm. Correct. It's their path.
It's their path. And she said, and that one is a fast tracker. And I'm like, what does fast tracker mean? And the medium explained to me in her words, and through my mom and herself, with her understanding, she said, well, basically, they came through in this life and they picked a lot of things they wanted to get done. In this one, they were going to take in this. I'm going to give me one of those two. I'll take that, because apparently when you're there and you're making these choices or choosing to come back, and she says you have to let them go through it. Take off the hat, sit on your toolbox, take care of you. You be strong and love them through it. Love them unconditionally through it. I love you. I cannot make that choice for you. You know what's right. You know what's wrong. I love you either way.
Mm-hmm. And Cisco, this is another thing that Isabella has said. Because we return over and over and over again, and as we're learning, sometimes you do have responsibility as a parent because you chose the role of parent to try to help them. But you also have to realize they're not yours. You don't own them. It's sort of like they're in a role and they were loaned to you for a period of time so that you will learn from them also.
Absolutely. We're both learning. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that was one of my biggest lessons. And it eased choose the words carefully. It wasn't a burden, because it's a pleasure, to see them grow and everything. But it was like, okay, I'm not supposed to do anything. I'm not supposed to do anything to change their course. I'm supposed to love them through it, let them choose their course.
That's right.
Because when they're little, you want to keep them from falling. You catch them, don't you? But as they get older, you can't. You have to let them fall, and then you have to let them get back up. And love them through the whole thing. And it made so much sense to me. And then the whole soul group thing made such great sense to me. And tonight, adding the karma group part, I can see it. I can so see it. And I was starting to understand it really well over the past couple of years, to the point of, instead of reacting like I normally would react, going to a new job, because we've all been split up and doing different jobs, into a new job, and this person out of my past, out of nowhere, no imagination, walks in. Now, normally I would have gone, okay, that's it. I can't go through that again, because she was not a very good person to work with the last time. In fact, horrific. But I didn't react that way. Something stopped me, and I said, let's do something different.
Very good.
And I just looked at her. I said, hey, how you doing? I acted like I never met her. I let her pull everything up if she wanted to pull it up, or not pull it up if she didn't want to pull it up. To me, it was just like, hi, how you doing? Boy, it's been great to see it. Like nothing ever happened. And the whole room changed. It was like that moment, it clicked. And I'm like, we're not going to do this again. Maybe that was breaking the cycle. I don't know what the word for it was, but it felt so different. And she wound up being the best friend in there. I mean, that blew my mind to the point I came and talked to my son about it. I'm like, I can't believe this is happening, you know? But I tried something different. And I tell the chat all the time, try something different with that. Don't answer the phone. You don't have to accept that energy into your life. You don't choose to have a bad day. Just because everything is going bad, why do you keep letting it go bad? Stop.
Yeah.
Back, you know,
Yes.
and start again, maybe.
Those are the lessons, Cisco. And the lessons, as we keep learning them and experiencing them, is that this is actually liberating. You are free from worrying about forever, because forever you are already eternal. You are free from worrying about death, because you are already eternal.
Eternal.
You are free from retaliation, because you don't really have to protect yourself, because if you do, you don't trust the system. The system is flowing with a purpose for you to learn and grow and return home.
Wonderful. Learn and grow and return home. Beautiful. Beautiful. And like we said tonight, the name of the show tonight was How Long Is This Journey? We're to enjoy the journey. We always say enjoy the journey. You know, even hard lessons come by. What are we supposed to glean from it? Let it go. You know, was there something, you know, not all of it's going to be easy. And if it was, we wouldn't know the difference. If we didn't have bad times, we wouldn't understand the good. If we didn't have dark, we wouldn't appreciate the light. It's just the way it is. But it just seems that this, like you just said, frees up everything. It was such a relief to me to realize I didn't have to fix that. I just had to love them through it. It didn't mean it was going to be easy. It didn't mean that it wasn't going to be, you know, some trauma down the line. It just meant you were going to look at it different. And that changed everything for me. And I'm hoping tonight in the chat and in the people listening that when you hear these lovely people talking about their experiences in their different lifetimes and what we've learned and how it is all laid out for us, even with your beliefs, in whether it's religion or whatever it may be, or just your personal belief, you can see where this can fit, because look at how everybody found each other in this chat, whether it be by energy or, you know, just, I like it in here, I'm going to stay a while. I think we are making those groups. Do you find that now with the lives that you went together, did the karmic group that was around you guys get smaller? I mean, I don't know if that's even measurable.
I don't know if it's measurable either. I mean, at least not conceptually, because the people that we keep following through with, and there's many, it's, you know, you're connected to thousands. Okay, now if you look at this, there are those that are closer to you and are drawn to you, but the person 1,000 out may return only in 4 lives.
Okay.
A person who may return in 40 lives, and somebody who may return in, 30 lives. But those people are connected to you for a reason. And you need to keep connecting. But it's really that you don't have to fix them. And this sounds almost a little selfish when I say it. The goal is you have to fix you.
Yep. And this is my story. Just said it about 2 minutes ago, right before you did. You take care of yourself and then help others with love. Beautifully said. And see,
Perfect.
that's it. How cool is that, though? And also, you had mentioned, Dave, I believe it was you that said, that karmic person comes in to test you. And I've seen that too. I've seen that too. And I'm like, if I was my normal self, I would react.
The same way.
Yeah, I would react in a certain way. I would get angry. I would get mad. I would, get my red head up. And I'm like, hold on a minute. I see what you're doing here. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try it different. And I just think it's amazing, the results from that. And it's so, so simple.
Yes. And humankind needs to feel like they are successful at something. So overcoming adversity makes you feel successful. If you start to realize that you don't have to react to their negativity, you are suddenly successful.
Wow. Say it again, Dave. Say it again.
If you don't react to their negativity, you overcome their negativity, you are in fact successful.
How cool is that? How cool is that? And that's such a gift for people who have to go in and deal with, a less than pleasant workplace, or, family, or, Thanksgiving dinner, or, somebody else, a neighbor or something else that you can't avoid seeing. And maybe, this episode and going back over it and everything that's going down, there's beautiful conversations in the chat all about reincarnation, how to treat each other. There's wonderful people in here. Absolutely wonderful. And they are dropping all your links to all your books and everything. They're just great. But, maybe listening to this tomorrow might be a little easier if you just realize, just like Dave hugging himself, so when he goes over and he gets his life review this time, he's like, he's going to get all the hugs and the feeling and the happiness, even just realizing these little things, these are really simple things. This isn't, rocket science here. This isn't quantum, even though you can add all that and, the quantum, everything and the physics.
There's a lot of simple rocket science, but the rocket science doesn't tell you how to live.
That's true. That's true.
The rules don't tell you how to live.
No, they don't.
It's the very simple rule.
The 5 simple rules.
And I don't know what guys, I don't know how you feel about ghosts and what ghosts are, or if they even exist, and, we're not going to hold you against you if you don't believe. That's, you get to believe your own belief. But how does that work? If somebody has left some of their essence here, and then, of course they don't reincarnate till I guess they cross back over and then can. How do you guys see all that?
Okay, so the first thing, Cisco, Isabella would say everyone passes over.
Okay.
Certainly, anybody who has had any mediumship experience or any experience with ghosts, etc., why the concept is that life, soul, consciousness is still in existence. It's still communicating, and they're actually dead. So no one would be trapped here, but their choice to communicate here could still be happening. So
okay, makes sense.
So they can still communicate, and they're certainly not alive. They're dead, so they passed over. And their choice to communicate with those in this earthly plane is still continuing.
Okay. Now, in my belief too, it seems to me that those that are choosing to communicate here also are, it seems like they get their energy from lower vibrational things like fear and all that kind of stuff, where spirits that have completely crossed over and gone through all their stuff and come back to communicate don't. They're on love and high vibrational stuff like singing and love and compassion and things like that. And that's why I asked the question, because I'm wondering if the spirits that are on the other side, and that means, to me, that means human beings that have crossed over and their spirits crossed over and they've gone through everything, they always have that message, like I said in the beginning, of love, understanding, care for the other, even animals. They always come back because they're more worried about us than they are of themselves. They're just always connected there.
Cisco, look at it this way, because some part of you continues.
Right.
And some people, some souls are waiting to return. And this is what Carla's mother does as far as a gatekeeper, because some of the souls going to return are still not really sure. They either want to return because it's not a great world, or they want to influence the world they're about to return to. And so they can express very negative energy because they would like to change the world they're coming to, because their last experience may not have been as good as they wanted, or they want this next experience to be better. So they have intentions to try to express some negative energy.
Okay.
So having a gatekeeper who protects you from that negative energy is very helpful. And anybody can ask for one while they're meditating. Someone
Wonderful.
to protect them from the negative energy.
And that's what they would they talk to their spirit guides, or would
They
they
would talk
ask
to
their
their
spirit
spirit.
guides
Yes.
for the gatekeeper? But they more
Correct.
likely have. That's wonderful. That's wonderful advice, guys. Talk to your spirit guides. We've often been told here that you get those questions like, if I have a guardian angel, why did I hit the tree? And I kind of laugh at that, and I say, "Well, hold on. You might have been supposed to hit the tree. It's like
there's a lesson. There's a lesson from hitting the tree.
exactly.
And
They
if there
think
had
that.
not been a lesson, the guardian angel would have stopped you.
There you go.
And we don't. And we use spirit guide
Right.
and angel. And some people think that spirit guides are a little guardian angel-like, if that's your term. But certainly there are angels that exist too.
Right. I think everybody just gets comfortable with their different things. So, I say, look, whether you call them your spirit guides, you want to call them angels, or whether you think your loved ones are angel, whatever makes you happy at this time, I think the labels can be removed, almost like little Post-it notes, and some of them wear 5 or 6. It's like, I'm the one you've been talking to this whole time. That kind of, But that's just it. If you want somebody, to protect you or protect your soul like that, and come back and forth, ask for that gatekeeper. Also, talk to your spirit guides. But what I've been told is, spirit guides will intervene if you ask them. Spirit guides will show you a path if you ask them, because we have free will, and we're kind of supposed to do this on our own, but we are allowed to ask for guidance. They're not going to do it for you.
They're not going to do it for you.
No.
And they're not going to even tell you the decision to make necessarily. Nope. They're going to, they may ask you the question.
They'll make you self-evaluate.
Self-evaluate. What is your goal? Or are you reacting, or is this an intention out of love?
Wow, that's great. Are you reacting, or is this an intention out of love? I love that, because reaction could be out of anger or fear or vengeance or, wow, that's a great way to put that. I love that. But again, asking for, I always tell my spirit guides, look, if I'm not sure which way to go here, and I don't know what to, like it might be a choice between 2 jobs, this was a little further, or I like this one a little, whatever that may be. Please, if you could help me make a sign that what would be best for me, where my placement might be best for now. Because I don't know what's in the future. And I often tell people too, something might happen to seem like, oh man, my life just took a hard left turn. And I go, wait, enjoy the journey. Because sometimes hard lefts turn into right turns.
That's right.
We thought we weren't supposed to do this, or we really prayed for this one job and we didn't get it. Now we're angry we didn't get it. Wait a minute. You might not have been supposed to get it, because if you sit back and you find out 6 months later, it wasn't the job you thought it was going to be. Something else changed in your life that would have been horrible if you were there. So ease up on yourself, and ease up on your guides too, and just kind of, I don't want to say sit back, relax, and enjoy it, but get out there and give it all you got. But when hard things like that come around, you kind of got to step back out of it, get the 40,000-foot view, and so how is this changing everything? Because it might be setting you up for the biggest miracle of your life.
And this is just someone we know who actually said this, and it's one of the truest little tiny messages, which is anxiety is just the difference between reality and expectation. So when you start to if you start to make a decision based on an expectation, and it doesn't happen the way you think, you're going to feel anxious. However, anxious just means something has changed. And it's not what you expected to happen, but maybe what's going to happen is even better.
And Isabella always says, because when you're raised in religion, you're taught to pray for what you want. Isabella says, when you pray and you ask for something, that's like saying you do not trust the intelligent designer. You need to trust the process. Thank for everything you have. Make good decisions, self-evaluate, but don't ask for things because that means you think you know better.
Or you think you're entitled, or you think
Mm-hmm.
you deserve things.
Mm-hmm.
You should be grateful for what you have, and you should be happy with what you have, because why do you think you'll be happy with more?
You'll laugh, but one of the I'm gonna have to put it up again for the chat and everything else. But there's a thing called the Native American Ten Commandments, the Native American Ten Commandments. And the first one that I learned is the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning before you ever get up and do anything is you thank the Great Spirit for this new day. Thank you for all I have. Thank you for this new opportunity to better myself, to do what's
Yes.
right, to be kind to nature, to replenish not only, nature and the things that are around you, but replenish another's soul.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so beautiful. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
That's
That's a
story is the
mantra to
same.
live by.
That's
Yeah.
the same story that reincarnation is all the way through.
How
Yeah.
cool is that? How cool
That's
is
very
that?
cool.
And it all depends on how you look at it and how you see that and what it means to you. But telling you guys that tonight, it's what you've been saying all night long. It's the first thing you do before you do anything is thank you for what I got. Thank you for letting me wake up again. Thank you for this new
Yes.
day, a new opportunity. It wasn't, thank you for letting me win that football game, or thank you for letting me win the lottery, or thank you for the new car. It's what I have right now in this waking moment. And I think that is so important, and it makes you think outside of yourself,
Yes.
and if you think about it, if everybody around you is happy, you're going to be happy too. So it sounds strange, to say, oh, that guy at work, he doesn't deserve it. What do you know what he deserves or whatever? You're only seeing him for that amount of time. You don't know what he's going through at home. You don't know what he went through, his mental capacity, pharmaceuticals he might be on, any kind of mental trauma. You just don't know.
And we have no right to judge anyone else because we don't know their experience.
Exactly.
No,
Exactly.
and that's another thing. Isabella says she hates the word deserves. She said nobody deserves anything. We're here by grace and grace alone.
How about that? How about that? You make it, a lot of it you make for yourself. Like, Mom, and the lights went off, and instead of being embarrassed, she said, I'm sorry, and we're like, Mom, you're working your butt off. It's just, this cost more than you thought. It's not like she wasn't trying,
She sounds like a good mother.
Oh my gosh, she was fantastic. I only had
You
her
were
for
so
12
lucky.
years. I was.
Aw.
But she taught me so much in that time, but she has also been my best teacher in life and my best teacher in death, because she's come through with so many things. And the first time, I'm going to share this with you, it's terribly personal, but who cares? But who cares? Because if we don't tell people what we've gone through and how we've learned what we've learned, the little bits, somebody else might be going through the exact same thing. So she was very, very sick, and we had gone from New Jersey, just her and I at this point. All my siblings were older and gone. I was the youngest of 9. So it was basically her and I against the world. She found out she had cancer. She didn't tell anybody. She was very tough. She didn't want to, she had a friend who had gotten through it in Norfolk, Virginia. So we were going to go that way. We picked up and we moved. She says, come on, move out here. There's a job out here. We can get through it. I'll take you to my doctors and everything else. I had no idea what was going on. I thought we were moving again. That got rapidly worse. She basically went in the hospital and never came back out again. She went in for a routine test, and that was it. And I'm in mid-stride here. I'm in a hotel. We were stopped at a hotel. She says, stay here. I was with the owner and his wife, and I'm going to the hospital, and then I'm going to be a little longer. Next thing you know, I'm there for almost like 5 weeks. She's not coming out of the hospital. I'm thousands of miles away from any of my family and home, and she hasn't told anybody. I'm an 11-year-old kid. So we're trying to figure out what's going on here, and eventually we got a hold of my aunt and uncle who came down and got me, and then everything happened after that. Now, flash forward 25 years, and she comes through. My whole life, I'm thinking as a 12-year-old kid, now imagine carrying this. I didn't do enough to help my mother.
Oh.
I should have been there. I'm stuck in a place I got, and fear of being stuck without a car and being able to get out of where I am lived with me for a long time. And I couldn't figure out what it was. It was that. Because it makes sense, yeah?
Yeah.
So this whole time, I'm living my whole life thinking, I should have been there. I should have been in the hospital fighting against the doctors who were doing tests. I'm 12. Who do I think I am? But anyway, that's how it was in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I meet with the medium. The first time my mother comes through, the medium is saying to me, she says she's sorry. Sorry for what? I'm thinking, sorry for what? You know? And she says she's sorry because she feels like she abandoned you.
Aww.
Here we are. The medium is sitting. We're in a circle of about 5 or 6, total strangers. Here's the medium. Here's me. And I'm talking to my mom. What do you mean? I abandoned you. She's like, no, I abandoned you. Back and forth. But that story tells you how your spirit. Here I'm thinking all my life, 25 years maybe of it, that could have done more. And she's saying she could have done more. We wound up both laughing. She's on the other side, And I finally told her, you gave me enough love and enough memories to last a lifetime. You're the best mother ever. You did nothing wrong. We just got split apart. And I think we both felt that hold where we were being blocked from each other with circumstance, and we both took it with us, and it took that long to come together to figure out that we just loved each other, and we were so sorry the way it ended, but isn't that amazing?
It is. Cisco, I'm going to tell you a little story again, and this is about Carla's mother.
Okay.
Carla's mother passed away before I met her, but this is one of the lessons we learned along the way. Carla's mother was being our gatekeeper. There are different levels in heaven, and in this different level of heaven, there's a place where you've raised, let's say, your vibration up, and it's a very beautiful spot. And sometimes you are given a job. A job
cool.
Could be like animal caretaker, taking care of the animals that pass, because it wants to learn a lesson.
Oh, just if anybody's listening, I want to put in for that job, please. Thank you very much. Okay, go ahead.
And Carla's mother and father had been divorced finally, even though they've been back and forth for 10 years or so. They finally got divorced. Carla's mother was about ready to have a nervous breakdown. She left. Carla and the other girls were left with the father. When she showed, so I know part of that history. When she showed back up with us, she was on plane 4 in heaven. She was doing this animal caretaking, learning about love and responsibility. She was being our gatekeeper, keeping us safe. And God, Godhead, whatever you want to call, came to her and said, you have learned so much in this lesson that you can now pass to the next level. And in the next level, you never have to go back.
Oh.
And Carla's mother said, I can't take the job. I can't go on because I can't leave the children now.
Oh.
And God looked at her and said, yes, you can, Cindy, because that's the lesson you needed to learn.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And she's still our gatekeeper because God said, I would never let you leave your children.
How about that? And it's so profound, and it seems so simple. And, I think in this lifetime, we can actually, with this knowledge, open-minded knowledge, and accepting the fact that, like we said in the beginning, somebody that knows what they're doing's got the wheel here. Somebody. Yeah. That you can look back for your life and see these profound moments. And I've mentioned it before. I don't know if you guys have ever read or seen the movie, the book's better, The Five People You Meet in Heaven.
Yeah.
Okay. So you'll know a little bit about what I'm talking about. The people he met wouldn't have been the five that you asked him what five are you going to meet, he would have never picked the five he met. Because he made such a profound moment with that person that changed everything. You know, and it's an amazing book, and it's an amazing movie. I think that John Voight did a wonderful job in the adaptation of it. But that's the message. Everybody, the person you open the door for at the 7-Eleven or the Wawa, the cashier that you were kind and said, "It's okay, honey, take your time. Take your time. I'm in no hurry." And you turn and smile to the person behind you because you know that it's their choice to stay or be angry or whatever, but you're going to smile at them. You're changing the whole vibration of that area.
That's right.
And it's profound, and we have so many profound moments, and I think we're missing a lot of those by being distracted by material things or, you know, different things like that, and they're just not important. You can't take them with you, can you?
Mm-mm. You can't take them with you. You
but
can't take them to the next life.
But this you take. This you take. This you take. And this is what we need to work on. And it's just an amazing journey between you two. I don't think we could do it in one show. Can I get you to come back?
Of course.
Anytime.
Would you guys come back? They have had such a wonderful time in this chat, and just absolutely profound. I wanted to at least put up your books. I did a little thing with the covers of the books, and we can stop and you could tell us a little bit about each one. Would you do that? I don't know how many do you have. I got 3.
Yeah, we now have 4.
Okay, I missed one, but let me put this up and we can stop it anywhere. And I just wanted to give the guys in the chat a little something here. Now we have this one.
This is The Gift of Past Lives with Mother Isabella, God, and Elizabeth. It's our first book where we started writing about the initial experiences that we had during meditation. And we talk about 20 lives, the 5 simple rules, a little bit about karma and lessons.
And the story of the red ruby in that and how it's had 34 lives, just like I have.
Wow, really? I was wondering about the ring, and I hadn't seen this book, so I wanted to find out about that. That is amazing. You'll have to tell us.
The ruby in this ring was first discovered in Scotland in 896. And it traveled through 34 lives.
There's a little vignette in the back of the book with that whole story.
Correct.
Is it? Absolutely fantastic. We're going to have to get you on to talk more about that one. Okay, we've got this one. Which one is this?
This is the manual.
Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, the manual is a book filled with what I would call Carla's questions on how things work. This might be a little bit of a little more of the how everything goes together, how the levels of heaven exist.
Oh, so
how
cool.
your angels help you, and actually the angel that you're assigned related to your zodiac sign actually tells you what karmic problem you had in your last life that you need to deal with.
And there's lots of 12s in life. Like we have 12 astrological signs, 12 traits, and 12 archetypes, and they're all explained in the book, as well as 6 characters from history that we all know, 3 of their consecutive lives, and how karma played in their lives.
Fabulous. Absolutely. There's another one. They're all writing them down, so you're going to get me broke. They're putting up all of the links too. Thank you. We have a link to the giftsofpastlives.com. That's where they can get the books. Fantastic.
Yes. Yeah. The third book is Hell No, Reincarnation. There it is.
There it is.
Yep. It is research into, 33% of the world actually believes in reincarnation. It discusses religious beliefs related to reincarnation, where reincarnation occurs in the Bible, the history of origin, the history of hell.
It's our reconciliation as
raised Catholic.
Yes.
on how this sort of where it all comes from.
And
Fantastic.
seven more of our past life stories.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, I missed the fourth. What was the fourth?
The fourth is our first historical novel.
Mm-hmm.
It is written. The name of it is Her Huba and His Rose. It's available on Amazon. It's also, you can find it on our website, thegiftofpastlives.com. It's the story of an itinerant preacher at the Second Temple period, when the world was falling apart, and what happened and how it changed the face of the earth.
Absolutely wonderful. Now, do you guys, you were talking so much about meditation. Do you have anything like on your website or whatever, or is there guided meditations that you recommend for, beginners, or maybe people that aren't so much beginners in it, but just want to look to get their meditation a little bit more suited for themselves? Do you have any kind of things like that or suggestions?
Well, there's a lot of labels put on meditation. We used to teach meditation at our local university, and all you need is quiet, yourself. We play music. I know a lot of people do it without any music, but we play nice, calming music because it gets rid of all the background noise so that you can quiet yourself. We recommend you do it in the morning after you get up because you're not tired. And devote 30 minutes a day to it. I mean, like anything else, if you're working out or you're taking a shower or making your bed, you have to do it religiously. And all you need is quiet, and you need to learn to concentrate on your breath, breathing in and breathing out. And when thoughts come into your head, just count to yourself 1, 2, 1, 2, and get back to the breathing and just ignore it. Imagine a light entering the top of your head, a nice, warm, comforting light, and breathe through every part in your body. But you don't need a guided, there are on YouTube, there's guided meditations.
Meditations are great.
Dr. Brian Weiss put one out, but you don't need those. You have yourself and music. That's all you need.
Now, again, I'll just repeat this. It lowers cortisol, which is a stress hormone related to weight gain. It reduces blood sugar. It reduces high blood pressure. It increases serotonin and dopamine, which is in all the antidepressant medications. So it literally physically makes you healthier. The other thing that they do when they do studies, when they find areas where there is group meditation, more positive things start to happen around the area of the meditation. So we did it at the local university. Now, we didn't do the study, but people who've done studies find that more positive things happen around the place where people meditate. It's literally opening up. Reiki is really a form of meditation. If you know people who are Reiki, they're really focusing spiritual energy down.
I'm so glad you guys said that, because that's the thing, stipulation with meditation. People go, well, I can't stop thinking. Well, Gandhi couldn't either. I mean, everybody, you just have that. So we put little things of like, there is no wrong way, I don't think. You could do crystal bowl. You could do fire gazing, light a candle and just, hold your, and just breathe. Yeah. I absolutely love the whole feeling of, I had a friend who was Buddhist. And the tones, everything has a way. The gong, the bells, tones have a way. They do it. They do it everywhere. Chanting, drumming. We do drumming. The whole thing. If it works for you, do it.
You can lay on your floor and watch your ceiling fan.
Yes. So the other thing is, I think of it as such a blessing, because without Carla saying, we've got to do something because you're getting too grouchy. We've got to do something. Without meditation, I would have never realized that the voice I heard was not me. So if it's Carla's mother, until I realize the voice I hear is not me, or my spirit guide, or God, or Carla's spirit guide, Elizabeth, until you realize the voice you hear is not you, how do you let them reach you? And that's
Absolutely.
what meditation allows.
Absolutely. I think that's beautiful. I really do. And I think it also allows you to hear you. I really think it
Correct.
allows you to hear you as well, because, a lot of times I think that the anger build up, the frustration build up, that whole thing where you're just erratic and you're just running through your day. And we've all done that. We've done so many things. We take pride, I think, in the last 20 years, everybody is multitasking. I saw a lady eating a piece of fried chicken. Her hair was in curlers. She was folding clothes in a basket next to her at a red light, talking on the phone.
Oh, my God.
People. I'm just saying, at what point do you think, how erratic do you think that woman's life is? She's getting all this stuff. But, how much more fun would it have been if she took that basket of clothes home? If she had kids, let's all fold them together and I'll teach you how to fold, or let's all do this and sing a song, or whatever.
Imagine what she missed because she never tasted the chicken.
Right.
And she never felt the softness of the sheet. And she never saw the bird that flew by her window.
That's it right there. We're missing so many beautiful things, and there's so much beauty out there. And I think the past couple of years it just keeps putting ugly in our face, and we just have to learn to look. We can acknowledge it. We can say, okay, that's it. Can I, and that old standby of God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change and change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think in a lot of ways we forget to change ourselves and how we react. That's something I always say. We cannot control how other people act. We can only control how we react to it. And that is like a number thing. And, we have to say it all the time. I literally had to physically stop myself from leaving this job because that woman walked in. And here we gave it a chance to something different. She turned out to be the best one there, the one I had the most fun talking to. So you never know what's going to happen, guys. We take responsibility for ourselves and our own actions. You can't, like I said, change other people, and you can't even change how somebody you love and stop them from going through something. We don't want to see it. But if we look at it differently and in love and love them through it, like my mother came through and said, just love them through it. And I'm sitting there arguing with her. That's it? You mean you don't want me? No, just love them through it. It took so much. It took so much. And this chat has loved you through this whole episode. I tell you that right now. You've made our nights coming on tonight. I would absolutely love to have you on again. I think we've just barely scratched the surface with the lessons that you guys learned from other lives that are going to teach us a little bit of something. You never know how it affects people. I'd love to have you back on, talk more about soul groups. And what you were mentioning in the manual sounded absolutely fantastic about that with the different angels and stuff. Would you please come on again and talk to us about that?
Sure, we will.
We'd love to, Cisco. It's been a pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I promised you an hour. We did 2.
It
didn't even seem like it did it. It's just been absolutely wonderful and a much needed message for tonight. Chat, let's thank them so much for coming in. I thank you guys so much for the super chats. It's my first time. It's amazing, and I thank you so much. I don't deserve it, but I will use it to get you more guests in here and more shows for you, because you are the guys that matter. Thank you again so much. Please again tell us where to find your stuff.
Easiest way is to go to thegiftofpastlives.com.
And remember your small local bookstore owners. If you can order from them, they've taken a big hit with COVID. If you can, support them.
Because anybody can order the book.
Yes, and they are right here, and they're getting it now. Look, they're buying the books right now. Be Kind and Grey Wolf and everybody. Thank you so much for coming in here tonight, and that'll be wonderful if they're reading the book. And we'll wait a couple weeks, bring you back, and then we can talk about it, and it'll be wonderful. Thank you again, and thanks again for reminding me in my lifetime how much of this I was noticing. I just didn't know where it fit. And you helped me put some of those puzzles, those little pieces back in there. It's been wonderful. Bet you we've done another life before together. What do you think?
I think you're right.
Oh, here comes the babies. Oh, my goodness.
Here's at least one.
Oh my
This is
goodness.
Luna.
Luna. Hi, Luna. Oh my goodness. Oh, what a precious baby. I can't imagine where
Yes.
Mr. Dickens is. He's usually up here. But we absolutely love animals and everything else. So bring them
Me
anytime.
too.
Thank you guys so much. I'm going to let you guys go and let this wonderful chat go. We love you so much. Thank you, mods. Thank you, chat, for being so kind. Wonderful guests. We're going to be back. We're going to see a lot more of you guys.
Great
Good night.
Cisco. Have a
Night.
good night.
Good night, everybody. If I can find out how to get out of here. Here we go. Good night.